You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
Welcome back, everyone, to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Hristodoulou. It is March 27th, 2022, and today we are currently, give or take, somewhere around 5 weeks or so away from the NFL draft, as the first 2 weeks of free agency are now behind us and things have slowed down. The big ticket guys have all been taken. There's a few big names still sitting around there, but I figured it would be a good time to begin my newest draft preview series that I'll be running all the way up until the draft. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to get every team, but I will get as many of the teams done as possible that I have the most interest in doing this type of video for. And the series will be called the On the Clock series. And today, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock. I will be going over 3 guys that I would like to see them take. We'll be talking about first round pick. We'll also be talking about a day 2 guy and a day 3 guy that I would like to see the team go after, and that'll be following suit with every single team afterwards as well. So every single team will get 3 draft choices that I feel would fit the team's needs as of where they are at this moment in time. So Packers fans, comment down below. Let me know who you would like to see the Packers go after in this year's draft. You guys have a fair amount of picks, especially after the Davante Adams trade. Make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the other content we got coming your way on the channel. And let's talk some Packers. So we'll start with the day 3 pick first. We'll then move into day 2, and then we'll finish off with the grand finale and my day 1 choice for the team. So the team needs that I have identified for the Packers as of right now, and you may argue of importance. This is just kind of my opinion from what I've looked at and kind of gathered around the league. I really feel like the Packers need to go after wide receiver and need to go after it fairly aggressively. And they also need to look at something along the offensive line, maybe more so guard specifically than anything else. And on the left side specifically, if we're going to really get in there, maybe just a guard, someone you can plug left or right side and move some other people around. There are some questions about the offensive line, but I feel like it's more on the left side than anything else with Green Bay. So to start, for day 3, a guy that I've picked out here that I think would be a pretty awesome pick, should he be available. He's been projected somewhere within like late day 2, early day 3. So I think if the Packers could snag him in day 3, this would be a steal for them to get, would be left guard Marquise Hayes out of Oklahoma. Now, I have not done any crazy in-depth analysis on my own on all these draft picks. I am using the notes and reading through what actual scouts are saying about these players and kind of fitting them into the positions of needs on teams. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some, draft scout or anything like that, but I feel like I can piece together team needs fairly well with what the actual scouts are saying and kind of find some solid fits. Now, the reason I have Marquise Hayes picked out here and some of the notes that I've put together on him, a lot of the pros, and this is really important for this position specifically, his leverage and his motor in the run game. Now, obviously there is a shift going on in Green Bay where it feels like they might be running the football a little bit more going forward since they were so willing to let go of Davante Adams and trade him away. It's cold weather football up in Green Bay, especially come playoff time, and cold weather football calls for effective running games, and I think that's something Green Bay might be looking for. And now, while Marquise Hayes might not be a guy who's going to start day 1 for them, he's a guy who is proven in the run game. And on top of that, no slouch in the pass game himself either. He's been a starter since 2019, and he's only allowed 5 sacks in the 3 seasons as a starter, with 0 coming in 2019. He had 2 the year following, and then 3 this past season. So only 5 sacks, and couple that with the fact that he has some of the best hands in the draft, noted by several scouts when I was doing my research on this guy. He seems like an excellent depth guy and a late round pick that is someone who could eventually turn into a starter, as a lot of people have him pegged as a guy who can become an eventual average starter or so within the NFL. There are some cons to him though. He plays really high in his pass sets from what people are saying, so he's a little too upright. He needs to work on getting lower because apparently he gets bulldozed a lot by some of the more effective pass rushers in the college ranks, and that's something that if he can't fix that going excuse me, I almost just lost my voice there. If he's playing too high, some of those more elite rushers are going to be able to bulldoze right over him, so he needs to get himself low. Couple that with the fact that he had 9 penalties in 2022, going into Green Bay. They are one of the least penalized teams and one of the most disciplined teams in the NFL. If you look back on the stats, the numbers prove it as well. This is a great place for him to go if he's struggling with, holdings and blocks in the back, whatever it may be. This is a great place for him to go because they clearly know how to get their linemen in check. And you're playing for someone like Aaron Rodgers. You want to be on your A game and not forcing those mistakes and those errors to put your offense in, a 1st and 20 or a 1st and 25, something silly like that. And also, he's apparently not super explosive, despite the fact he had a 24-inch vertical at the combine. He's not considered a super explosive offensive lineman, but again, a guy that would be an excellent day 3 pick for them, who they can kind of mold and doesn't necessarily have to jump in right away, or, depending on how Green Bay feels with his development through training camp and everything, maybe as a potential starter for them in day 3. I feel like offensive lineman is one of those positions, especially on the interior, where you're able to find some guys that if you already have anchors in place on the O-line, can tend to fit in and almost benefit from playing alongside some really good linemen. They obviously have Myers sitting there at center right to his right, be a good guy to pair up with and see how they do together. So again, late day 3 kind of guy that they could go after. Would definitely love to see the Packers take him. The day 2 pick that I have for this team, and like I said, wide receiver is a must-fill for this team because the loss of Davante Adams is not something that you are going to be able to do or be able to recover from fairly quickly, I guess you should say. And couple that with Marquez Valdes-Scantling now being gone, Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb, along with Amari Rodgers, pretty much headline your receiver room right now. You obviously have Robert Tonyan coming back. He had a pretty excellent year, 11 touchdowns just a couple of years ago, and then this past season, riddled with injuries, was not as effective and did not have quite the second year that everyone was expecting him to have coming off that first one there. Wide receiver, George Pickens out of Georgia. The dude's 21 years old, 6'3", 195. He's got size. He's very good at getting separation, and couple that with some of the best ball skills in this draft class. Pickens would be an excellent day 2 pick, a guy who does not have to step in and be the number 1, but has the physical traits and potential to be a number 1. He had a really effective freshman year when he first came into the spotlight in Georgia, but never really did much with it afterwards. So that's probably his biggest knock. So like some of the cons, people are worried that, despite the size and all the athleticism and having all the physical tools you want, he might not develop into the number 1 that some people would like him to be. But if you're getting him in day 2, the risk outweighs the reward, the reward outweighs the risk here, in my opinion. And I think you'd be a great guy to bring in there. He brings a lot of size. All the receivers you have right now, again, there's no real true number 1. So you're bringing in Pickens, who can come in, he can compete, and you can see what you can get out of him. But, I mean, you'll know rather quickly if Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb are beating him out for, first-team reps. There's obviously, we'll see what happens there. But there are some worries about him. And this is why I feel like they'll be able to steal him somewhere within day 2, whether it's, late in that second round or maybe even the third round, depending on how teams feel about him. He's still coming off that ACL tear he had last spring. He did not look excellent going into the games that they played through the playoffs with him, but he did have a few good catches. Also, you couple that with some rule violation suspension that happened earlier in his career, his freshman year, and he also got ejected from a game as well. So there are some concerns, obviously, that are there, which would push him back to fall, and I think would end up being a steal. The only other real knock to him is I guess his speed. Ultimately, altogether, he's not quite as fast as you might want him to be. Something he might be able to work on, but the guy is still 6'3", 195, and if you're drafting him, you're not really drafting him more for the speed and blowing the top off of defense. You're drafting him because he is a big-bodied, large wide receiver who can get up and go after and high point a ball that Aaron Rodgers throws up there, because Aaron Rodgers is so accurate and so good at delivering the ball. A guy of his size and his ability to get after the ball at the catch point would be an excellent combination for the two. And having Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football only increases his potential. And then for my first round pick, the guy that I would like to see them strike after, the Packers have 2 first rounders this year. So with that in mind, they have a good opportunity to make a play on basically the receiver of their choice, or maybe even sit back and let one of the guys that they want fall to them, just depending on how things shake out in the draft and how quickly the receivers start coming off the board. If some start going early, you could see teams panic and you'll all of a sudden get that like, oh, okay, 7 wide receivers taken in the first round, something like that. It'll really depend on when the wide receivers begin to get taken and just how quickly they start getting taken off the board. But I mean, if I was to pick a guy that the Packers should go after, and I know that they do not chase wide receivers in the first round, but with the loss of Davante Adams, I 100% agree with this. I've seen it in a handful of other places, and when I was looking through the top-end wide receiver group, I really kept coming back to this guy, and wide receiver Chris Olave out of Ohio State. He is the best, or arguably the best. I don't want to say the best. Arguably the best, because we don't necessarily know yet. Arguably the best route runner in this class, and is the perfect guy to replace what Davante Adams brought to this team. Davante Adams, arguably, or you could even say the best in some cases, the best route runner in the NFL. The way he moves, the way he can lose defenders with the way he runs routes. I mean, he's even posted about it on social media saying, when you're in the offseason, don't do all the flashy nonsense. Go out there and run routes and make them as crisp and effective as possible. And it shows in Davante Adams' game. Chris Olave, arguably the best route runner in this draft class, would be the perfect guy. Couple that with his excellent hands, a 4.9% drop rate over his career, excellent hands, and then a 32-inch vertical and 4.39 speed. Potential to be an excellent playmaker. I've seen some people peg him as like a strong number 2 wide receiver and maybe a number 1 should he progress really, really well. I think having Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football will only benefit him and help push him into that, closer to a true number 1 wide receiver category. And, Rodgers to Olave for the next, 2 or 3 years, however long Aaron Rodgers is around, would be a very lethal combination. Now, there are some cons to his game, or just to him specifically. He's not necessarily the best after the catch. When I was going through the numbers, it was noted 10 career broken tackles out of the 176 receptions he's caught over his entire career. That is a little bit of a red flag. He's not super great with, with post-catch ball skills. Something he can develop, though, over time, especially learning from someone like Randall Cobb, who I think is excellent in the run after the catch. Also, he's a little bit of a smaller guy. 6 feet, 187 pounds, not the largest guy in the world. He's actually about my size. I'm 6 feet, and I currently weigh about 100 and almost 90 pounds, roughly, give or take. He probably has more muscle mass than I do, and he's probably shredded to all holy hell, but about the same size as me, roughly. So he could definitely, add on an extra 4, 5, 6 pounds of meat, muscle mass, just to, thicken him out and make him a little bit harder and a little bit tougher to bring down. And I think that would actually help him in his run after the catch ability. He's already so fast, it wouldn't kill his speed to add a few extra pounds just to put on some size and make him a little bit bigger and a little bit more imposing and harder to tackle. But ultimately, Chris Olave, man, he is like the replacement. If you were to take one of these guys out of the draft, it's got to be Olave for them to go after, and you have to believe they have their eyes on him. They appreciated everything that Davante Adams brought to this team, and his game made what Aaron Rodgers does so easy and makes him even more effective than he already was as a quarterback. You bring in a guy who is the best route runner in the draft to replace the best route runner potentially in the league. Where are you going wrong? I keep losing my voice here, but where could you go wrong with that? It feels like a match made in heaven. They have 2 first-round picks, so they could potentially wait to see, because I've seen Olave mocked somewhere within like the 20s a few times in a few different drafts. I've also seen him go as high as like the low teens, even to like 13, 12, 11. So it depends on who gets taken first and how quickly receivers start coming off the board. I would say that he's probably the 4th or 5th wide receiver at worst taken off the board. Definitely potential for him to be the 2nd or 3rd as well. But they have 2 first-round picks. Say a wide receiver or 2 goes off the board, just trade up and get your guy. You traded up and wasted a first-rounder on Jordan Love a few years ago. You've obviously eaten your words on that mistake at this point here, re-signing Aaron Rodgers and dealing with the drama you have the last couple of years. If you need to, trade up and get your guy. And even if it's not Chris Olave, it's got to be a wide receiver, one of those first-round talents you need to replace not with some late day guy. Like George Pickens is an excellent project. He has great potential, but a guy like Olave, route running is a skill that you need to work at consistently. And it's clear Olave has it. You don't want to have to wait around for a guy like George Pickett to clean up his route running and become a better wide receiver. Hope that Amari Rodgers or someone like that can get better at what they're doing there. You want a guy like Olave who's already very polished and ready to roll and start running those route trees in the NFL. But that's who I'd like to see the Packers take in this year's draft. 3 guys in my choice. Again, Packers fans, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And I will catch you guys next time in another video. Have a good one.